The most important preseason poll in America is out, Bill. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Podcast Daily. It is Tuesday. Later on today, we're going to be talking to the Ohio State safeties, Perry Eliano and that group, and that's going to be very interesting. We'll get Bill's questions that he has for that group, although I think he already has the answers now.
I have more questions.
Oh, you have more questions.
I have more.
So we're going to get to that, but first of all, the coaches poll, which I don't know why it exists, has been released.
It's fair. That's a good question.
Why does it? Why do we need coaches advocating for their own teams and voting for their own conferences, whatever those conferences may be? Ohio State is number 4. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah. I want to look. Who's ahead of them? I haven't looked at it yet.
Good. This is the kind of stuff that you can.
I'm going to guess.
Yeah. All right.
Georgia number 1.
I'm going to look at the actual vote breakdowns too, just to help you out while you guess.
Georgia number 1. Michigan 2. I mean, I guess it has to be Alabama 3, although I would quibble with that. And then Ohio State number 4.
Trying to get the voting breakdown, and the organizers have decided not to make the information easy to find either.
The fine folks at USA Today?
Yeah.
Very colorful newspaper.
Okay, here we go. Yep. First place votes for the 2-time defending national champions. 61 went to Georgia. Number 2, Michigan received 0 first place votes, but is still number 2.
Okay.
Alabama received 4 first place votes. They are number 3. And you can quibble up with that. Quibble with it.
I don't understand that.
Why would you vote them number 1?
Why are you? I mean, I get it. It's Nick Saban. And it does feel like every year we think they're not going to be particularly good is the year they win the national championship. So if you're trying to be on the right side of history, I guess I respect that on some level. But I would not be giving the first place vote to Alabama. I think you have to respect the 2-time defending national champs, but I could be swayed pretty easily. I think to vote Michigan number 1, so that nobody did that is a bit shocking to me. In terms of the pecking order, I think like Georgia, Michigan, no doubt. I would probably have Ohio State 3, and then I don't really care what happens after that.
Sure.
I don't know. Like Penn State, I think could be in the conversation. USC, I suppose.
Well, this is a coaches poll, and I'm going to let you all in on a little secret, and that's that the coaches don't respect the coach at Penn State.
Oh, well, that's also fair. He is. What is his record in top 10 games? He's like 0 in a million.
He's about 1 million games under 500.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's been updated recently or not, but that's where I've got it. Ohio State did receive 1 first place vote, so 1 more than Michigan, but finished 2 spots lower in this poll.
Oh, it was nice of Ryan Day to vote as team number 1.
I don't have who it was. I don't think Ryan Day wants to vote in the coaches poll.
Yeah, who do we think it was? Let's play that game. Who voted Ohio State number 1? I know who it was.
You got it?
Well, do we have the voting panel?
Because Kyle Whittingham.
No. Well, Kyle Whittingham does seem to have an affinity for Ryan Day. There's a little bit of a budding bromance there between the two.
They're good buddies.
If Tom Allen is a voter, I think Tom Allen voted them number 1.
He doesn't appear to be a voter. Oh, I know who it was. Okay. I skipped right to the end. The head coach at Tulsa is a voter this year.
Oh, so okay, yeah. Okay.
I think Kevin Wilson probably put Ohio State number 1.
Shout out to Kevin Wilson.
But Kyle Whittingham is also on there. Could go either way. Tim Albin is a voter this year for some reason. I think that's what's really important. This poll is so dumb, people. America, why does it exist? Why am I talking about it if I think it's so dumb? Like, why would we care? A MAC coach has to prepare for MAC teams. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be watching literally any other games on Saturday or their sports information director.
Right.
How are we supposed to take them seriously as ranking the top 25 teams when they are going to watch their own team, the team that they play that week, and then their next opponent? How is Tim Albin supposed to properly evaluate Ohio State?
I think he's breaking down the Bucks, man. I think he's on there in a projector watching all the top 25 teams taking this.
There are other candidates. Stan Drayton could have put.
It's Ohio absolutely Kevin Wilson. You have figured it out.
Ryan Day is a voter this year. I see his name on here now, but I don't think he would vote them number 1. I think he'd say Georgia.
I think
he doesn't want his team to be number 1.
Yeah. I think they're very much going to try to ride that being slighted as motivation as much as they can. Hard when you're the preseason like number 4. I think maybe in the AP poll they might be 5th because like they're always 5th regardless of what is going on with them. They're like always 5th because USC will be ahead of them for some reason. But
Well, Lincoln Riley's a genius.
Yeah,
Duh.
they'll own that. So Ryan would definitely not vote his team 1. He certainly wouldn't vote Michigan 1. Michigan can be the 4-time defending national champions. I don't think Ryan Day would vote Michigan number 1 in the coaches poll.
That'll never happen.
He's smart enough to know that I think he shouldn't pick Alabama. So he definitely voted for Georgia, or more specifically, Jerry Emig voted for Georgia. Shout out to Jerry. Or maybe it was Mike Bassford. Who do you think votes, Jerry or Mike?
Jerry.
Yeah. Mike Bassford knows ball, though.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either one.
No.
Maybe they get together in Jerry's office. Mike, how can we rank them? What should we do?
Put them on the whiteboard.
Let's break them down 1 through 25. Do we think that should we sneak Texas Tech in there? Bassford, should they be in the top 25 this year?
Where did
Texas Tech is number 24, by the way.
Tell me
that won't last when they lose to Wyoming.
Go Pokes. Tell me where some of the other Big Ten teams landed.
I sure will. So we know the top 4. Number 5, Brian Kelly's family is number 5.
Yeah, I kind of think LSU is going to win the national title this year.
Oh my goodness, it's a hot take Tuesday, boys and girls. USC is number 6. Jimmy Franks checks in at number 7, ahead of number 8, Florida State.
Big game, Florida State, LSU.
Do you think that was just contrived to make it a top 10 showdown? You have a little bit of stake in Florida State, don't you?
I own a Jordan Travis football card that would increase in value if they're good this year, so I wouldn't hate that. No, there's like Florida State's a darling team this year. I think people want to wrap their arms around the idea of them being back. I think the same thing with LSU, although LSU won a national title just a handful of years ago. So I'm not surprised to see them there. I thought maybe where were they? 8th?
8th, the Saudi Seminoles.
The Saudi Seminoles, yeah. That sounds about right to me. I think they'll probably be in a similar spot in the AP poll.
Number 9, Dabo's boys down there in Clemson. Little old Clemson, just number 9. Oh boy, some motivation for training camp. That's not Dabo's accent. I don't know why I did that. Number 10 is Tennessee. Number 11 is future Big Ten member Washington. Number 12, the Horns are up. I think that is a laughable spot for the Longhorns.
Yeah, they'll be higher in the AP poll. They're going to be a top 10 team in the AP poll, so prepare yourself for that.
Well, you got to build them up now so that when they lose to Alabama,
you
can say, oh, it was a great team great Alabama team.
A top 10 matchup there.
You got to protect them. Number 13, Notre Dame. I thought they would be higher.
That is, yeah, I think so too, because you have to really, I think to question Notre Dame, you have to get into the weeds a little bit. And if you look at them just like surface level, they have a decent amount back. They have a new quarterback that everyone thinks is very good, Sam Hartman. I would expect them to be a tad higher than that as well.
Number 14, Kyle Whittingham's Utah Utes. Lots of fans of that program in Columbus these days. They come in 1 spot ahead of future Big Ten member Oregon. Number 16, TCU. Number 17, Kansas State. Number 18, Oregon State. Oklahoma 19. I'm a little surprised to see them in the top 25 at all coming off of last season. But they have talent, and then you have the brand recognition, so I assume that a lot of the coaching brethren would just give Brent Venables the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I don't know that I would. I think of all the Big 12 teams that have been listed so far, Kansas State is probably the best one. That would be my pick to win that conference. So, but I don't know if coaches view it that way. The brand helps. I think people are probably like rooting for Brent Venables in a weird way too, and they have a lot back. I don't if you factor in like first year coach making some adjustments, get your system in place, and then you bring back enough to. It's not dissimilar, I guess, from Ohio State's defense going into year 2 under Jim Knowles.
Mm-hmm.
I could see the belief in Oklahoma, but I don't have much of it.
Number 20, North Carolina. Number 21, Wisconsin. Number 22, Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's new girlfriend will probably be upset about that. She's probably too young to care about the coaches poll, to be honest. Number 23 is
She's too young to vote.
Number 23 is Tulane. And number 24 and number 25, a strong Texas flavor with the Red Raiders and the Aggies of Texas A&M. So,
well, to see the respect for the G5 and Tulane, I was mostly curious where Wisconsin was.
That's Luke Fickell gets a lot of love.
Yeah, I mean, Luke is an excellent coach. It's a program that gets a lot of love as well, and deservedly so. But going through a transition, I thought maybe it was possible they wouldn't quite crack the top 25.
Right.
Especially with the changes they're making on offense there and getting away from bully ball a little bit. But I do believe in Luke, and if I were making a poll of I were making a preseason poll based on how I think the year is going to end, I would have Wisconsin in the top 20.
Yeah, I think next year at this time you're going to be looking at a potential top 10 team.
Yeah.
I think that Luke and Brady Collins probably need about a year for that to take hold, especially with some of the changes they're doing offensively. Probably doesn't work in Ohio State's favor, to be honest, when you think about it. Like they 2 months of footing that they get to find a little bit, and then to go up there and who knows what the weather will be like and all that stuff. But that team will play tough for sure. Sneaky tough matchup. Maybe not that sneaky. I think Ohio State fans know that going on the road to Camp Randall is never going to be easy.
I want to look at their schedule. See how I feel about this here. All right. Buffalo.
Yeah.
At Washington State.
Who signed that deal?
They played in Madison last year, didn't they?
Yeah. Why? Yeah. Wisconsin, have some pride in your program. Don't make Luke Fickell go to Pullman, Washington. What are you doing?
They're going to go beat them up on behalf of their new Big Ten brethren in Washington. So Buffalo at Wazoo, home against Georgia Southern, 3 wins. At Purdue. I'm a big Purdue stan.
Conflicted situation over here,
but I'll give them a dub there. 4-0. Rutgers 5-0. Against Iowa at home.
A real 6-3 banger coming up.
I think it's in Madison. I might give them a win there. Then they get Illinois on the road. I think maybe you're looking at a 1-loss Wisconsin team. Ohio State goes there. Whether it is Iowa or Illinois or Purdue that trips them.
Yeah. You're big on Purdue. I kind of think Illinois is going to be a headache for people on that side of the league, but we'll see. I'm kind of surprised maybe they didn't get more love in this poll, but he's another coach that doesn't have a lot of friends, and
which is crazy because he's a very good coach.
Yeah.
But maybe that's why
he's alienated some people in that profession, but that's okay. He's not doing it for them. All right, that's the top 25. We don't have to talk about that anymore. Coaches top 25 because it's irrelevant. But guess what is significant? Ohio State got a day off on Monday from training camp. They checked into the hotel, and then they're back on the practice field later on Tuesday morning. And then Bill Landis will be in there to get all of his remaining questions answered by Perry Eliano and a safety-driven defense.
Yeah, I still have some, and it's less about kind of the top end of that room now, because as I've said and as I wrote at ohiostate.rivals.com, I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on how they're going to do this, and there are questions stemming from that, like what all can Sonny actually do when sub packages are at play? Does Sonny stay on the field? And frankly, I don't think we're going to get answers to those questions now. We'll have to wait until they actually play games. But I'm interested, in some of the depth guys in that room. Like Kai Stokes is a guy that we've not really talked a ton about really this entire offseason, and he was one of the darlings of spring last year. And it's not surprising that buzz would sort of fade away as the season got closer and he didn't play a whole lot. But that's a guy who I think still has a pretty high ceiling. I'd like to know maybe what Perry Eliano thinks of Kai's development over the last 2 years, how he thinks he can help them this year. And then a guy that I am increasingly interested in is Malik Hartford, who was, I believe, after
practice number 3,
Saturday's practice, or something, I guess it would have been Sunday's practice, was
whoever they're counting it.
Whoever they're counting it. I don't know. Practice number 3 was the silver bullet of the day, according to Jim Knowles' Twitter account. And Jim Knowles is pretty effusive in his praise of Malik Hartford when he was asked about him specifically after the first day of camp. I love Malik Hartford's high school tape, but he had to get bigger. He was super skinny, and he seemingly has gotten bigger. So he is on my radar a little bit as a young guy who could play. I don't know if I was I think I might have written freshman who could do something this year for them. And I can't remember exactly how high I was on Malik Hartford other than maybe special team stuff, but I don't know. I think if he keeps rising at the level that he seems to be rising, I don't think it's out of the question that he's pushing for a spot on the 2 deep by the end of camp.
The pick 6 on Thursday, if he wasn't on your radar already, that's a good way to do it. Jumping the closing speed there, the read. I don't feel like he was trying to bait Devin Brown into any of that throw. It was just a heck of a play. Great closing speed, great hands, and to finish that off. We've seen that be an issue at times with Ohio State safeties where they're making plays, but they can't quite close the deal, whether they're a fraction too late or they drop the interception. Plays like that are certainly going to move the needle, even if it's not full pads, not full go, any of those other things that you want to say about it early on. That jumped out to me for sure. I think, on Monday at Roosters, Bobby Carpenter was talking a little bit about sort of these sub packages as we try and figure out the Sonny Styles, role moving forward. If you need someone who's more like Cameron Martinez or Jair Brown to play there if you've got teams that are going to throw it more. I don't know how much Ohio State, Jim Knowles, or Perry Eliano are going to talk about this, but like, how much do they envision actual rotation or personnel-based changes in the season? Because last year they did not do that.
No.
Like, at all. Other than Josh Proctor getting benched.
I think there might have been like less than a handful, but like a snap or 2 or 3 of like a dime defense where they brought, I think maybe Cam Martinez onto the field in addition to the 3 starting safeties, but it was rare. And I don't know if Jim Knowles wants to do that, but if you're playing Sonny Styles and Lathan Ransom and Jahad Carter together, I think you're going to have to do it more, right? That seems to be the case for me. I don't know if it seems like that for you.
Well, I don't have the answers. I've made that very clear. This wasn't the right day.
We have the questions. We don't have the answers.
I have 50 questions about the safeties, and I've had them all year. I think I can't know for sure if it's going to work. I think they have enough pieces, enough high-level talent, enough flexibility and versatility, especially with what we're seeing just from one day of practice of Sonny Styles in the nickel, that they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes that can be tough. If you have the ability to do a bunch of different things and you don't commit to one plan, you can see, chemistry, communication, uncertainty. So I don't know how that's going to transpire. If that's what they want to do, if they want to have the ability to match up nickel with, if you're playing Wisconsin and Notre Dame and Sonny Styles is closer to the box, that makes a heck of a lot of sense to me. I hadn't considered it all that much during the offseason, other than like what we saw from him against Georgia or last year in certain situations as really more of an extra linebacker. But I'm certainly intrigued by it because of Sonny's high-end potential. But you also probably are not going to go through the course of the entire season with him playing exclusively in the nickel. So Cam Martinez and Jair Brown or Ryan Turner perhaps are still going to have to play some role. Now, I don't know how big it is. I don't know how expansive it is. I don't know how willing they're going to be to do that matching up within a game.
Yeah.
And so that's 6 questions right there.
Yeah, and they're all good questions and questions that I have too. And then like dovetailing off of that, like last year when they went to sub packages, the nickel came off the field. Tanner McCouch came off the field. Whether that was to play Sonny as a big nickel or to play a third linebacker like Cody Simon, it doesn't have to be the nickel. Like Jahad Carter can come off the field if they want to bring on a quote unquote true nickel and bump Sonny back to free safety, or bump Lathan Ransom back and move Sonny to strong safety. Like Sonny has played in this time here nickel and strong safety. Like he was the number 2 bandit behind Lathan Ransom in the spring. Last year we saw the big nickel stuff, and when he was in that role, like in the Peach Bowl, he was following Darnell Washington, whether that was to the field or the boundary, short side or the wide side of the field. But when he was playing like pure backup role snaps, like I was watching like a little bit of the Toledo game, Sonny was playing nickel. He was playing to the wide side of the field. So like this is not new for him. It's a more expansive role with a whole lot more on his shoulders than playing garbage time against Toledo. But that's at least a sign to me that they think that he can do probably everything at the safety position that they need him to do to play all 3 spots. So I think there's an opening for him to never come off the field. It's just a matter of how do you move him around once you start working those sub packages.
What else?
Probably asked about the freshmen like Jaden Bonsu, Cedric Hawkins, guys who got here after spring ball, just like sort of positionally how they see them fitting in. I think we saw Jaden Bonsu playing. I want to say he was playing some nickel as well, but again, like the thing that I think is confusing, and I think I was viewing this wrong too. Like Jim Knowles calls it a nickel, and I think that brings about images of like a pure slot cornerback. The position used to be called the strike when he was at Oklahoma State and Duke, and the guys who have played that position have more or less been corner types, but it's not necessarily like a traditional nickelback. It's basically just the opposite strong safety. I think they are asked to do a lot of the same things. It's just that when offenses put their receivers, their formation to the wide side of the field, that's the guy who has to cover a slot receiver. But in the Peach Bowl, Georgia decided to put their formation into the boundary, into the short side, and Lathan Ransom had to cover a slot receiver. So they do a lot of the same jobs. So I think that there are different body types that can do it. But if they can have a Sonny and maybe this is a longer term proposition, but like a Jaden Bonsu who is maybe built more like a linebacker, maybe even than Sonny is. He's a little lower to the ground, lower center of gravity, but then also have those cornerback types in your back pocket too, the Cam Martinez, Jair Browns, Ryan Turners. Like the more guys that can do that position specifically, I think the better for Ohio State. But then it's a matter of like how comfortable is Jim Knowles actually pulling that stuff out to use it when he's not really done that in the past.
Strike is a terrible name for that position.
It used to be called, so it was Rover, Bandit, and Strike. And now it is Adjuster, Bandit, and Nickel.
I don't understand why Nickel gets the short shaft here.
Yeah.
Like, Strike is not good, but Nickel is the most bland thing you could come up with.
Call it the Sunny.
I think they're going to be calling for him plenty. But it's just, Bullet is just sitting right there on a platter for him.
Yeah, and I actually do think Sonny in that role will probably function most like a Bullet as we've seen from an Ohio State player, or like the old school star position that Ohio State used to have here too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the vision for Sonny. It's a little different than what they did with Tanner McAllister.
It would have to be, because they are quite different physically.
They sure are. He's a big old dude doing that job.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Ohio State, at the end of the week, we'll have one more look at practice. Friday will be open, so we'll have certainly that coverage to look forward to in the days ahead. But later on today, we will talk to Perry Eliano and that group of safeties. We'll have coverage of that, some Snappy Jays coming on the podcast. Thanks for spending part of your day with us here on the Podcast Daily for a Tuesday as camp gets rolling yet again for Ohio State. He's Bill. I'm Austin. Talk to you later.